Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 109.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
Okay, we're going to keep this one simple, but definitely have some fun. I've been recently had the privilege of going around literally the world and country and sharing information about how to find investors, raise private capital, and do all those fun and fancy things that I know that all of you want to know. So for those of you who might not have been able to make it to maybe Lithuania or Estonia or all the other places that I've been recently, what we've done is we've just kind of taken a little bit of information from those events and we're just going to give it to you right here. So grab a pen, take some notes.
A goal, any goal, once obtained, becomes a responsibility. Any goal once obtained becomes a responsibility. What I simply mean by that is that many of you, you're here for your reasons, whatever they may be. There's something you want, and whatever that is, it's something more than what you have at this moment. Can we agree on that? Yep. Yeah, it's something that it's more than what you have right now, whatever that is. Whether that means you've got no money in the bank or $10 million in the bank right now, you're here because you want more of something. You say, well, I don't want money. All I want to do is make sure I free Willy and save the homeless. Great. Guess what? Still takes money, and you want more. You want more fulfillment. You want something. And you're hoping that this guy at the front of the room has the ability to help you get it. I'm going to do my best to do so. Now, interestingly enough, there are a number of you who are here who have used this information before, and I find it interesting that you're coming back. I'm like, it's the same stuff. It hasn't really changed. But hopefully we'll be able to leverage that experience as well, because some of you might be thinking, oh, that only works for him. And I'm going to do my best to prove to you that it works for everybody as common as can possibly be, because I am literally nothing special. There's nothing different between me standing here than you sitting there, other than the fact that I know how to make a decision, stay focused, and make something happen and never quit. I had to learn to persevere. I had to learn to not quit, and we'll go through what all of that means. But most importantly, I had to learn to do things that are naturally uncomfortable for me. Write this down. There are two things. How many? Two things that you cannot do simultaneously, and they are learn and look good. Can't happen. It doesn't happen. You cannot learn and look good. I have 4 children. How many? Pray for me, right? I have 4 children. The oldest is 17, and today, oh my God, is day 3 of her being in college. Help me, Lord. I'm having a hard time with it. She's only 34 miles away. Notice I know the exact length of miles in Pomona, and I'm just like freaking out, like she's gonna, I don't know, explode or something. But here's my point. When she was little, and I have a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old, when they were learning to walk, how many of us have seen a kid learn to walk? Does that look good? No, not at all. Does the kid care? No, not at all. And when they fall, do they get back up? Yes, absolutely. What happens if they don't get back up? What happens if you're a parent and your child says, you know what? I fell. That hurt. I'm just not going to walk all my life. Does that even sound right? So my intent today is to help you realize that your dreams are still alive. It's time to get back up and walk. All right? You may have put them to the shelf, because oftentimes when we're confronted with something that we say we want, the first thing that comes up is, well, I don't have blank, or I am not blank. And the same was very true for me. Now, for those of you who've seen me before, you know I can be very direct. I am not good at being politically correct. And if that offends you, understand that that's not my problem. My goal is to help you. And if that is what it's going to take to wake you up, I will do it. One of the things, and again, for me, just again, sharing, one of the things that was tough for me a few years ago, and I'll show you a video in a second, was just, I live in Orange County, right? How many of you have noticed that most people in Orange County don't look like me? Right? Figured that out? Therefore, when it goes to, I'm reaching for something, who can I follow? We like to follow people that at least look like us, sound like us, can relate to us a little bit. But there was like no one. And you say, well, what about your family? Well, what about your family? That's my point. So there was no resource there either. And there was so many excuses that are offered to us every day. So many. You may have developed a whole bunch of bad habits and bad patterns, etc., but it's never too late to change that. And my hope today is to insert amongst you some new ideas. Because here's another one, and I want you to write this down too. No one has a money problem. No one. You have an idea problem. Okay? Now, some of you may have chuckled, you may have laughed. You're like, yeah, right, you don't know my situation. I'm going to prove it to you throughout the day that your issue is not the fact that you don't have a lack of money. You have a lack of ideas. And what's going to happen to you today is that I'm going to give you a bunch of ideas that will, for many of you, create new possibilities that you have never seen. You will leave here and go out there, and even that same window, like right now, it's hard for me to look out this window and not see a whole bunch of opportunity. I kind of like got to shut it off because it's really, really easy for me to see, ooh, there's a problem I can solve. There's a way to make some money. There's a way to help somebody. It's really, really easy to see that. And my intent today is to make that happen. Another thing that we're going to do today is that I promise you I'm not going to do all the talking because that does not work. Doesn't work for me, won't work for you, because my intent is to help you understand that real estate is a skill set. Raising capital is a skill set. How many of you know how to cook? Raise your hand, raise them high. No, keep your hand up if your friends also think you know how to cook, because those are the real people. Okay, excellent. Now, for those, keep your hand up. Now, for the rest of us, this is whose house we're going over later, okay? But did you learn to cook solely by reading book after book after book? No. You can put your hands down. Thank you. You learned to cook because, maybe you saw the recipe and then you're like, okay, I'll try it their way. And then you're like, I didn't like it their way. Let me change it. And then you change it a little bit and now it's yours. Same here. I'm going to give you a ton of recipes. The recipes work. Some of you aren't going to like the taste. You're going to want to add more salt and that's fine. Some of you, you're like, Tapatio is my thing. Great. Whatever works for you. But I will give you that foundation with which you can use to do whatever you'd like. Does that make sense? Yes or yes? Yes. Okay, good. Please understand this. And don't take this the wrong way when I say it. I'm not here for me. Make sense? I'm not. I am here because I strongly believe that if I help one of you, and I don't know who that one is, right? Make just a 1 degree difference. A few years from now, your life will look different. And hopefully, maybe it's one of you that can cook and you'll invite me over for a barbecue. But just hopefully, you know what I'm saying? That's what matters to me. That's what I care about. I care about the fact that I know and I have an understanding of what's going on out there, and what's going on out there. When it comes into our house, it beats us up, and it takes men from being men and makes them hide. And it takes women out of their position and makes them want to take control and do things that are totally outside of their best skill sets. And it destroys families in such a way that it makes it hard for us to live day to day. And I don't like it. I can't change everything, but I can hopefully touch one of you. And if I can give you a key that'll unlock a door, maybe you'll smile once more. Make sense? And if I could just do that's why I'm here. Okay. The money and all that other stuff, great, whatever. Awesome. That's just a means to an end. And we're going to talk about a lot of that in a second. The main thing that gets me excited is what you do with this information. Not that you know this information, because we all have friends that know a lot, but do very little, right? And I'm not that person. Let me tell you who I'm the most concerned about. How many of you would call yourself that A student? Be honest, you might as well. I'm going to call you out later. All right, excellent. Okay, let me rephrase. How many of us have at least one degree and possibly two? Okay, all right, here comes the first possible offending statement. I call those receipts. That's really what they feel like out there in the world. They don't really give you the opportunity to do much. And what I want to do is I want to give you a skill set that is worth more than the receipt you currently have. Does that make sense? Because if I can do that, you really will become different. What does that mean? That means I am what they call street knowledge, period. I don't have no high level. I have college dropout. Okay, I did finish high school. Woohoo! All right. I do have a PhD, public high school diploma. Okay. So I can go that far. But if you want to start talking some well, my economics teacher said, and this, I don't care what your economics teacher said. Because all I want you to do is answer me this question. By a show of hands, how many of us taken a class by the title of economics or something like it? You took at least one of those. Look around, everybody. Look around. See, they all took it. Now keep your hand up if your economics instructor actually owned a business. Oh, sorry. Now look around. Do you see that? See, y'all didn't have their teacher. That teacher probably actually taught them something. And that's what's amazing to me, is that we end up learning things that we think are useful. We get our receipt from people who have no experience in business teaching it, in my opinion, in the first place. And hopefully today is going to be a crash course in a lot of different concepts. Some of them will be higher level. How many of you hate math? Be honest. Okay. How many of you like money? How many of you realize that math and money are the same and suddenly now like math? All right. That's how we go. That's my point. All right. So keep that in mind. All of those things make a difference. And at the end of the day, what I want to do is bridge those gaps that teacher left unsaid so that you can go out there and actually use this stuff in such a way that it makes a difference in your family, not 6 months from now, not 6 years from now. How about 6 days from now? Because at the end of the day, if I teach you a very simple system that allows you to go out there and do that's literally possible. Some of you in this room have experienced that with the information that I've shared before. So all that stuff that you're saying to yourself, well, you don't know what happened to me. You're right, I don't. But that's called so what. So say that with me. So what? The most important question is, now what? Say that with me. Now what? All of those things are so what. The question is, now what? This is what happened. Okay, it happened. The point is you only have now. And many of you know, I mean now o'clock. That's the only time you can act. You got today. You got this moment. Hopefully you'll make it count. You have 86,400 seconds every day. Those are investment opportunities. And here's the first lie you've been telling yourself. Many of you have said, I am not an investor. Incorrect. You are. One of the things you invest are seconds. The problem is how you've been investing those seconds has paid a horrible return. Make sense? And that's the problem. As I had to learn how to reorder that first investment in order to get to the rest of them. Because when it comes to real estate or business, because this information, just so you know, it applies to any business. We're just going to use real estate because it's the easiest example and it has what is known as POC. It's known as what? POC. This is called proof of concept. Proof of concept. So every business has these 4 components in various forms: knowledge, time, money, and credit. Knowledge, time, money, and credit. The challenge is that you and I have to learn how to invest these things or use one of these resources in a better way than we have for the most part. Typically, when we're seeking information, it's because we lack the knowledge. We have time. We were hoping to make some money, and our credit is shot. Make sense? So we're like, I don't have anything but time. I know that that's valuable, but I don't know anything. So how can I make this thing work? And that's what I get excited about, is that you can literally draw a dotted line right here. Knowledge, time, money, credit. When you draw that dotted line, typically the person with the knowledge and time does not have the money and credit, and vice versa. Typically the person with the money and credit does not have the knowledge and the time, or they don't want to use their knowledge and or time in that fashion. And that's where the value is created. Because I want to see if you got the same email I did. You were told to go to school, get good grades, and get a... God, everybody got that one. And I find that interesting. And here's the thing. We were trained to respond a certain way to a certain stimulus. That stimulus is, I want to eat, so I need money. Therefore, I go get a job. Wrong word. What you need is a source of income. You don't need a job. And that was the key. When you begin to go, oh, I just need a source of income, because right now, let's just be real. If you had $100,000 in the bank right now, and you knew another $100,000 was going to show up on January 1st, how many of you would say goodbye to the job? Okay, that's my point. You need a source of income. You don't need a job. What you've been leveraging is time in one way to create value. That's all you've been doing. What we're going to talk about is how to access the resources of others and leverage those resources to create value in other ways. At its simplest form, that's what, quote unquote, raising private capital is. The same skill sets and techniques that we're talking about today are what is necessary in building your team. And when I say team, I'm talking like your emergency team, your rehab team, your management team, acquisition team, all of those things. It's how to gain access to the resources of others. Because there's going to come a time, even if you're the person with money, there's going to come a time when you run out and you're going to need to access someone else's knowledge. You may not need the money, but you need access to someone else's knowledge. You may have the knowledge and the money, but you need access to someone else's time. You may actually want to use that thing called credit, and don't get me started down that thing, because I hate the credit system. I just don't like it, because it only measures a human being's past, never their potential, doesn't give them the opportunity to repent and change, and that's exactly what happens for most of us, is that we make mistakes first. How many of us have figured out that life gives us the test before we get the chance to read the book and you get that? You get the test first. And you're like, oh, I failed. And now it's too late. That's the credit system, and I can't stand it. It just irritates me to no end. See, I told you, don't bring up the word credit, because I end up on this tangent. I'm back. It's like, it irritates me to no end, because it judges your past. If all we did was if you were judged only by your past, how many of you would not show up today? You're just like, dude, I quit. We're looking towards the future. Let's find a system that can help me with that. Anyway, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you what real credit is, by the way. So one of these resources you're going to run out of. Many of them you may be out of. You may only have time. And the secret here is to learn how to use your time to gain access to knowledge. Once you've gained access to knowledge, you can eliminate the need for credit, and you can be taught how to find people with money. In my opinion, knowledge is the one thing you do need. Remember, I said no one has a money problem. You have an idea problem. The capital you need is intellectual capital, and that's what's missing. Intellectual capital gets packaged in many different forms. Sometimes it's a book. Sometimes it's a seminar like this. Sometimes it's a course. Sometimes some of us think, hey, you know what? I'm so hot, I can do it myself. I'll just figure it out. And then you learn by the school of hard knocks, right? Either way it goes, you're going to gain that information. Some ways are cheaper and more efficient, and some are just painful. But either way you go, you're going to get that lesson. I recommend the more efficient, less painful ways, which tend to involve some sort of upfront investment in knowledge and time before you go out there and do some crazy stuff. But, to each their own. And what it comes down to is we don't invest our time properly. And you say, well, Jay, I went to school. That's true. You went to school, but you got the wrong kind of knowledge. See, there's academic knowledge, there's financial knowledge, and you didn't get anything but academic knowledge. And then there's vocational knowledge, how to actually do something. Like, I would rather our young people go to a post-secondary school that just taught a trade than what are you going to do? I'm just curious. And if you have this degree, please let me know. What do you do with a criminal justice degree? What do you do with that? Go to more school. Great. That's awesome. Yay. That didn't help. What do you do with that? How does that provide value? Does that make sense? And that's what I think about is how does what I'm doing, what I'm learning provide value? How does it solve a problem? And if it's not solving a problem, it's probably not knowledge that's about to make you money anytime soon. The only intellectual knowledge or ideas that earns you money or creates value is the ones that solve problems. And that's what we're going to be talking about, is solving the problem. How many of you would say you've said to yourself, if I had more money, I'd have no problems? Be honest. How many of you think people with money have no problems? Be honest, right? You go, they have problems. They're just different problems. Okay? So you go, well, I got a tax problem. So do they. Trust me. I got a tax problem. It's just a different type of tax problem, right? That you're like, well, they're kids. Think about their kids for a second. Is there a problem there? Kids grow up around too much money? No discipline? No folk? Yeah, there's still a problem. Same thing. You're just like, well, I want my kids to go to Disneyland. That's true. But what if your kid got to go to Disneyland anytime they want it and take all their friends and use a jet to do it? That still can be a problem, right? It's still problems. So please disassociate yourself mentally from the fact that if I had money, I would have no problems, or the people with money don't have problems. Therefore, what on earth could I have to offer them? That is a very disempowering, debilitating thought process. That, my friends, is the number one reason, in my opinion, why most people fail to raise capital. They actually approach the person who has the money and credit, hoping that they are going to do them a favor, and they don't even realize the value they're bringing to the equation. Once you begin to realize the value you're bringing to the equation, this whole thing begins to flip on its head.
Are you tired of letting good cash flow generating ideas go to waste? Go to cashflowdiary.com/ready to apply for a complimentary, yes, that means free, one-on-one breakthrough session. Take action now. Go to cashflowdiary.com/ready. Again, that's cashflowdiary.com/ready. Before we get back to today's episode of the Cashflow Diary podcast, your host, Jay Massey, has some important insights to share with you.
All right, flipping this whole thing on its head. That's what you want to know how to do. And that's the purpose of the breakthrough sessions, by the way, to help you figure out some of those insider ideas, ninja secrets, and give you that opportunity. What it comes down to, guys, is that we are ultimately value creators in such a great way that we don't even know it until we start going out there and trying. And that's what I'm hopefully giving you the tools to do. You come here, you meet new entrepreneurs, you have the opportunity to understand, everything that's going on and hopefully finding your niche, finding the way that you can go out there and create value specifically. In fact, in this next section, if you are finding yourself like, hey, where do I get started? You want to pay attention right now.
One of the keys to understanding all of this is what I call investor identity. It's called what? What it simply means is that all of us are uniquely designed, crafted, if I will say, to serve a particular type of person. That particular type of person or group of people has a lot to do with who you already are. And here's the thing that I see all the time. You stayed up late one night and we're just exiting the summer, so the TV shows will start to calm down, which is great. But during the summer, we always get these flip this in 12 seconds and make $200,000 shows, right? And you're like, yeah, I want to do that. And you actually think it happens in 30 minutes. That's just not how it works. That is so not how it works. And we start going out there and we start going, well, which house is going to make the most money? And we start chasing money. We start thinking that that's what we need to do. And we've forgotten the number one person that we must keep in our head, and that is the customer, i.e. whom we are serving. And that's how I look at it. Whom you are serving. The most important question, the most missed question is whom you are serving. Because most of you, you'll come to me sometime today and say, ooh, Jay, I found this online. What do you think? Is this a good deal? How many of you are willing to admit that right now you just said to yourself, crud, I brought that deal hoping he would look at it, and man, he just said that. Who did it? Who did it? Somebody always does. Yeah, I know someone always does it. It's all fine. My point is that it happens, and you've got it in the wrong order. The most important thing is understanding who you're going to serve. Because once you understand who you're going to serve, everything else gets easy. It gets clear. You know how to market because you find out how to reach them. You know what type of properties to buy. You know where to buy them. You know who to work with. All of that stuff gets easier once you understand whom you are serving. Without that, it's squirrely and there's too many possibilities, too many answers to the same question. So that's what we're going to talk about for this first section is your investor identity. Here's the order in which you take down a property, raise capital, make a business plan, do whatever you want to call it. This is the order that it happens. IMTD. That's the order. Hasn't changed, won't change. And it starts with the individual. Then it goes over to the marketplace, team. Then the deal. What's at the bottom? The deal. What's at the top? Individual. Individuals have an investor identity. Marketplaces have an investor identity. They have their own identity. Teams have their own identity, and deals have their own identity. And I'll show you what I mean by giving you a couple of examples. One of the easiest ways to illustrate investor identity or individual investor identity are things like understanding that not every deal is designed to achieve your financial goals. So some deals are designed to hit your income statement. And you're saying to yourself, ooh, I want to build my net worth. Well, that's great, but why are you doing fixing and flipping? Because that's not designed to build net worth by default. Other deals are designed to hit your balance sheet, but you're saying, ooh, I need to earn money today. Okay. Well, that's a typical buy and hold or note transaction. Now, that doesn't mean you can't use buy and hold to build your income today. I can show you ways to do that. I'll show you examples of doing that. Even with commercial property, you're serving a particular demographic. For example, how many of us have ever had the idea, especially those of you that cook, you're like, ooh, I should open a restaurant, right? Okay. If you opened a restaurant and you just served food, are people going to show up? Because they don't know. What's the first question? What kind of food? Why does that matter? Because there's too many choices. There's too many choices. You know, you ever ask your friend, hey, let's go out to eat? God, that's a hard question to get the final answer to, right? What do you want? I don't know. You pick. Well, I don't know. You picked last time. Well, how about your time? God, somebody, please make a decision. You're the one sitting in the back seat. Just like someone choose Taco Bell. I don't care. The point I'm saying is there are tons of restaurants. They all serve something different in terms of style of food, but in general, they all serve food, but they all serve different people. Like when you go to Mama's Chicken and Waffles, that's different than Soup Plantation. Guess which one of those two I end up at? And that's an easy value proposition for me. There's like no decision, right? You know, I'm clear there. But you get my point. Here's another way of looking at investor identity. How many of us are familiar with the store by the name of Walmart? Lord knows I am. What about Target? You've been there at least once? Okay, good. And then Nordstrom. You like that one? Yeah, me too. Now, when you go to Walmart, what do you expect? What's that? Low price. Absolutely. Guaranteed low prices, in fact. And they're always rolling back, right? When I go to Walmart, I expect one thing. I expect it to break, right? And they're pretty good at delivering on that promise. When you go to Target, what do you expect? What quality? A little bit better? Sure. Low prices still, but maybe a little bit better. What I expect is a clean floor in a Starbucks. That's about the difference, in my opinion. Outside of that, then I go over to Nordstrom. What do you expect? Everything. Can we just call it everything? Because that's really what it is. Because there's nothing, if anything, even the smallest little nit or hair is out of place on that item, you are going back, aren't you? Because you're like, I paid too doggone much money for this thing for it to be whatever it is. And that's how you feel about it. And they're pretty good at serving that person, aren't they? See, does Walmart make money? Does Target make money? Does Nordstrom make money? Okay. Do they all sell something in common? Yeah, what? Clothes, right? Shoes. Shoes for some of you, and we'll get to that in a second, but if they all sell clothing, shirts. Now, I'm not saying go to Walmart, Target, or Nordstrom, right? I don't care which one you go to. The point is they all sell shirts, and they all make money when they sell that shirt. So please don't let your real estate be about money either. Jay, where's the money at? It's in real estate. Which one? They all make money. Choose the person you want to serve, because that's what Walmart has done. When Walmart serves a person, do they care about the Nordstrom customer? No. When Nordstrom serves the person, are they concerned that Walmart is rolling back prices? Because last time I went to Nordstrom's, even on their half-yearly sale, it still seemed to be expensive. Right? Either way it goes, it doesn't matter. They're not concerned about, they're making money, so I need to go over here and do this. See, that's what happens when you get exposed to real estate investing information. You go, I can do some fixing and flipping, and that would be great. And then someone says, hey, you know what? I use none of my own money or credit. Oh, really? You can do that? Yeah. Well, maybe that's what I need to do. And then you hear someone say, I do short sales. Oh, okay, great. Well, let me do that for a minute. And you spend all your time bouncing back and forth, never going down any one path to the cash register. And that's a problem. And because you're so worried about missing the opportunity that you now see and recognize over there. I hear you. I understand it. I get it. And it's tough to ignore sometimes the sirens and signals that are going off around us. Because you see this person, they just closed the deal. You want to be like them, so you jump over here and suddenly go, and then you have to go through a whole new learning curve and start over. And then you go over here and you start through a whole new learning curve. And over here you start through a whole new learning curve. And the next thing you know, 4 years have gone by and you've never done a deal. But you've talked to your friends the entire time and they're like, hey, what's going on, man? How's that real estate thing going? Right? And that's what has happened. You don't even realize that has happened to you. You're like, well, I'm still learning. How much? Seriously? Man, doctors get out faster than you do. And you got to understand that. And we're talking to our customers incorrectly. You are marketing your deal to Walmart investors, but it's a Nordstrom property. And you're like, why aren't they buying? This thing is good. You're not even speaking their language. They can't understand you. And you go, well, real estate must not work, or I must not know what I'm doing, or it didn't work for me, or that. Do you hear what I'm saying? And that's just so wrong. No, you haven't stayed focused long enough on one thing to figure that little piece out. And because you haven't figured that little piece out, you go, well, this ain't working. I guess I'll go try this over here. And then you go through the same cycle without realizing this one little thing. And understanding investor identity is key, because otherwise your customer's never going to buy. Never going to buy. Because you market your property to the wrong person. You market your deal to the wrong investor. They're willing to put their capital, but you're not showing them what they need to see the way they want to see it, so that they'll go ahead and take action on it. Now, you, for whatever reason, feel like the only thing you deserve is Walmart. For whatever reason, you feel like you only deserve Target. Nordstrom, because this is how I grew up, and some of you will get this languaging, Nordstrom is for them, not us. That's what I was taught. I didn't know Nordstrom was for me too. And that's the whole, because Nordstrom don't care. They really don't. Okay? But because mentally I'm going, Walmart's where, quote unquote, I belong, who I identify with, therefore that's the herd, that's the flock. And I can look over there and go, oh, that's nice. But actually what we tend to do is go, oh, look at them, right? That's typically what we do. And we talk ourselves out of the very thing that we're trying to get to. Investor identity is key. It's been plaguing you all your life. You didn't even know it. And what's worse, the person you're talking to has an identity and they don't know it. And because you haven't educated them the way that I've educated you in this information, you're like, what? How many of you have had at least one epiphany in the time that we spent together so far? You had at least one like, oh, that makes sense, right? That makes sense. Suddenly you had a deal going through your head going, oh, that's why they didn't buy that. You've started to think of names of people who are like, oh, that's a Walmart person. That's the problem. They're Nordstrom. That's the problem. Make sense? The person you're concerned about first is you. That's the first person I'm concerned about. The second person is whom you're talking to. Okay? If you're talking to someone and you're trying to sell them a property, who's a realtor? Licensed realtor, any state, excellent. Your customer, that buyer, has an identity and they identify with certain properties for the same reason. So now you want to make sure that their identity matches what you're showing them and your identity doesn't matter so much. Make sense? Unless you're trying to be a specialist. You realize you don't need to dominate every aspect of the market in order to make a decent living, especially in real estate. Because bless you, there's lots of commas and zeros in this business. I love those commas and those zeros because they come before the decimal point. And that's exciting, right? And that's what I'm saying here is first it's you, then it's them. Then it's the marketplace, because this is key. If I said I wanted a marketplace that went up like this and down like this and up like this and down like that, where in the United States might that happen? Right here. Vegas, right here, right? Phoenix. See, what'd you say? Baltimore. I don't deal with the cold, but okay. But see, he knows that. The point is that marketplace has an identity as well. If it goes up like this and down like this and up like this and down like this, but you are an investor that's looking for this steady thing, should you be in that marketplace? Do this? Do you see what I'm saying? And sometimes, and this is how that decision gets made, we're like, but Jay, I don't know anyone else anywhere else. The team has an identity as well. I'll give you an example. I'm not a football fan, but what are the San Diego Chargers known for? They got an identity. That's all I'm after. They're known for something. And if you're coming out of college and you are coming from one of the top schools that have football teams, which one is that? I'm trying not to start any arguments right now, but I understand what's going on. Because, see, Ray's going to say LSU, and you're going to say Alabama, and I'm getting these two are now enemies. All of a sudden. It's like, what? Okay, but my point is, if you come from that tradition and you're known for winning, are you even going to think about the San Diego Chargers? No. Because it's not the same identity. Right? So your team must also have that identity. My team, like my real estate team, my business, we are known as executioners because that's what we do. We execute like nobody's business. Now, eventually we plan, but we execute really, really well all day long. If you want it done, give it to us. It'll get done because that's what we do, right? But that's our identity. And everyone on the team has had to adopt that identity of getting it done, right, Jacob? Because if you don't last long on the team, do you, Sandy? No. Anyone who's been around long enough and lived in the world of Jay becomes someone who's good at executing. Because that's just what we do. It's how it works. Some of your team, your contractors, they only know how to think in granite. They can't, for mica, those words can't come out their mouth. It's like cursing. You would use that in a house? Yes, absolutely. Please. They have never said the word discount. They don't know what it's like. You buy stuff from Goodwill to put in or Habitat for Humanity to put in the house? Uh-huh. And your tenants are okay with that? What kind of tenants are these people? Did they just come out of jail? Maybe. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you have the wrong team, it doesn't matter how great the deal is or everything else. It falls apart. There are some teams that are great at cash flow. There are some teams that are great at fixing and flipping. There are some teams that they just can't mix it. There are some that are really cut for commercial. There are some that are cut for apartment buildings, and there are some that are cut for apartment buildings that are used with public funds. When you start using grants and other things, they come with extra restrictions. And there are some teams that don't even know how to deal with that. Right, Omar? Yeah. They can't think that way. But my point to you is the team has its own identity. Then and only then does the deal matter. And the key thing is to understand and make everything match. Because oftentimes you could be that Walmart investor working in a Walmart neighborhood, working with the team that understands the Walmart customer on a Walmart deal, but you've gotten the capital from a Target or Nordstrom investor who has a completely different expectation. And then all of a sudden, something falls apart. And they get freaked out. Because see, as I said earlier, each store has its own problems, right? I know I've invested a ton of time here, but this is where the deal is made and or lost from the beginning. Everything else flows from this. Nothing else matters if you fail here. Work here until you get and understand your own investor identity, the marketplace, the team, the deal, and most importantly, whom you are talking to. When you go to Walmart, Target, and Nordstrom, you know what you're going to get. They deliver on that promise. Here's the challenge. When you go to a customer or a potential investor or a potential seller, they don't know what they're going to get from you. That's why you're having such a hard time getting this business off the ground. That's why you haven't gotten a referral. That's why it feels like you got to spend so much doggone money on marketing just to get started. When I go to put a deal together, I make sure that everybody matches up. All my vendors and contractors, they have that, they understand it all the way through. If they don't understand it, even if their price is low, that's the reason they got to go, because they don't get this. If they don't get our customer, they don't get the business because they don't understand. And you've got to learn to vet and understand that too. I want you to be able to practice something that's very, very simple. I want you to learn how to get the conversation started. And there's two ways to get that conversation started. Either A, someone's going to ask you, hey, what do you do? Or B, you're going to ask them. So you're going to be asking, or you're going to get the opportunity to go first. And you're going to follow a very simple formula. Very simple formula. It is action verb, target market, benefit, so they can benefit. This is step number one. This is what happens when someone asks you first, hey, what do you do? What type of investing are you looking to do? It's action verb, target market, benefit, so they can benefit. What I mean by that is I show retiring doctors how to leverage their Keogh plans so they can make sure they don't outlive their money. I help lawyers actually know how to use their money that they make so they can quit worrying about the next case and where it's going to come from. Oh, cool. I help firemen make sure that they have something other than that really nice pension to count on so they can really take care of their families and get off that ladder and quit beating up their bodies. Do you get where I'm going with this? All I'm doing now, I'm going to use real estate to do that. But here's the thing. Most of you keep going, hey, you want to look at this deal? No, I don't. But I do have a problem. And if you tell me that you understand how to help me with my problem, I will listen. And if that means real estate is how we're going to solve my problem, sure, sounds great. Could you imagine if doctors went around and said, hey, would you like a surgery? No. And none of us say, yeah, I would love a surgery, please. No, they say things like, would you like to feel better about the way that you look? Yes. Now they're headed down possibly plastic surgery, right? I heard that over here. Or you go to the doctor for a routine checkup. You're like, hey, doc, is everything okay? And he comes back, nah, you got cancer. You're like, oh, crud. Suddenly surgery's on the table, right? You weren't thinking surgery. You didn't want surgery. But it was it was part of the process to get to what you wanted, which was the benefit. If you learn to speak in benefits, you'll attract a whole lot more people to you. Instead of talking about your deal. Make sense?
Well, does it? Speaking in benefits will bring you more benefits than trying to speak about your deal. Hopefully you've been able to gain some information, some insights, and possibly you're now looking on the website trying to find one of these live events so that you can be a part of it too. It's been fun sharing, again, more information with you. I look forward to talking to you guys soon. Until next time.